it's Jade from Inspirlang. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm not actually teaching you any Cantonese or Taishanese or Mandarin, and instead, I'm going to make things a little bit different because we are celebrating Inspirlang's 8-year anniversary. And I've compiled all the questions you have asked me on Instagram, and now I'm making this video to answer all of them thoroughly. So 8 years ago, I created Inspirlang's website and YouTube channel and hoping to teach my cousins Chinese. And today, this is the channel that you're seeing and the website that you're seeing right now. So I hope you guys have been enjoying studying Cantonese or Mandarin or Taishanese with me, and I'm going to be answering all your questions right now. And before that, I would like to introduce you to our moderator for today, Angie. So Angie will be helping you guys to ask all the questions that you've been having for years. Okay, you can go ahead, Angie.
Okay, so the first question, what inspired you to start your own business?
Nothing. Never thought about, actually starting my own business and especially doing it full time. And I only started Inspirlang in college and as a hobby, actually in my first year of college, and I did it just as a hobby, and then later on I found out that I really liked teaching my friends and also my other students, and I did really enjoy it. And fast forward, when I graduated from college, I also never thought about doing this full time, but I continued just building Inspirlang on the side, after my full-time job, so I just did it just for fun mainly. And 2 years ago, 2021, that was when I actually incorporated Inspirlang and started making it like an actual incorporated company. So yeah, that was a bit of a scary move, but that's basically how I started.
Okay. So how did you set everything up?
Oh, what does that mean? So like set up the company or like set up?
Yeah, like what are the first steps to building a brand?
Oh, right. I guess like when you start, especially like a school or language school in this case, what you really need is a curriculum and also teachers, right? And I've actually been writing material this whole time. I published my first Learn Cantonese book back in 2018. So I've been writing, and then even throughout college, I was writing. And during like winter breaks, I would write up curriculums, and just, I don't know for what reason, I just thought one day I might use them, but I also just did it for fun. So I've been writing a lot of material, and once I could start classes at Inspirlang, I used those as my curriculum. But that being said, I don't have like a full set of curriculum at that time. I might have like a level 1, level 2 beginner lessons, and just throughout time, because I had to teach myself, I developed like level 3, level 4, level 5, 6, and it just keeps going. So, and then in 2021, when I was looking for offices, my friend and I, we went like touring offices all around the city in New York, and we eventually landed on this office. Actually, we recently moved too, but yeah, so this is how I set everything up. And then also, trying to find teachers, but finding teachers is not, at least at the beginning stage, was not as hard as everyone would think, because the Cantonese learning circle is not that huge. So kind of like everyone knows everyone. So that's how I met a lot of the teachers at the beginning, and also, to build a whole team of administrative staff also.
Your books. So how did you start writing your books?
So the first book that I wrote was Learn to Speak Cantonese 1. And it's really funny enough, so the book is about this guy, Gabriel, who learned Cantonese to impress his girlfriend's mom, and his girlfriend's mom only spoke Cantonese because she was from Hong Kong. The story actually came from a lot of my students, because at the time I have a lot of students who are learning Cantonese, because especially beginners Cantonese, because their partners or like spouses, they spoke Cantonese, or their families spoke Cantonese, but they couldn't really communicate to their partner's family. So I took the story and I put it together. But before this book, I actually was working on another book. It was just like a learn Cantonese Cantonese learning book. And I actually showed it to my student, one of my students, and she looked at it and she said, "Oh, this looks very interesting." But who's gonna buy it? Like in the bookstore now, we already have some comprehensive Cantonese books, and what makes this unique, and like why would anyone basically be convinced buying a Cantonese learning book from a college student? So I thought about it. I was like, you're right, and I actually put it down and like kind of put it down and removed it from my computer, and never worked on it until I was studying through one of Columbia's program to learn how to teach Chinese at the time. And when I came back, I was determined to not write anymore, because I was like, oh, like there's so many of the professors who can teach so much better than me, like why would I even like try? But then something happened, and I was actually learning Korean at the time, and I looked at all the Korean studying material, and I was like, hey, I wish we could have that in Cantonese. I want something that's fun but also informative. So and then I have this story in my mind, and growing up I've always wanted to do creative writing, like writing novels. So then I put the two together. I made a story out of a language learning textbook, and so that's what inspired me to start to write my first book. And ever since I kickstarted the first book, it's unstoppable, and I just kept writing. So yeah, that's how I started writing.
Okay, since you talked about you learned Korean before, so how many languages do you speak, and which ones?
Oh, so I feel like I can only fluently speak, English and Chinese that includes Cantonese, Mandarin, and Taishanese. I've also learned Spanish. Oh, actually, I'm still learning Spanish. What am I saying? So I'm still taking weekly lessons in Spanish, but I'm nowhere like close to like being fluent. But I do just enjoy learning it because it's a hobby, and also in the city we do have a lot of Spanish speakers, and even just at the office on this floor we have a lot of staff who are Spanish speaking folks, so I just enjoy learning and then talking to them. So yeah, those are the fluent ones. I have made attempts to study like Korean in the past, and Vietnamese and French, but like none of those I like actually persisted and like could actually communicate and converse. So I'll just say like a little bit of Spanish on top of English and Chinese.
Okay. So as of today, what would you say is your best achievement so far?
You would think that I would say like my books and stuff, but actually no. I think when I was younger, I really enjoyed podcasting. I really enjoy like broadcasting and podcasting. I've actually at one point I thought about becoming a news anchor, but I knew it would be too hard because my English wasn't. I can converse pretty well, but also like I don't consider myself like native at all. But back then, when I was in high school, I did a challenge, and that was like a public speaking competition, like a citywide public speaking competition. And my goal at that time was really to get into the finals, because I was in the States for about 2 years at the time, and so I had to work a lot to improve my pronunciations in English. And so my teacher and I would work like after school every day. I think accents are beautiful, but in a competition like this, I knew that carrying like a heavy Chinese accent would reduce my opportunity a whole bunch, especially it is a public speaking contest. And so, I worked on my pronunciations for 2 months, and then headed over to the speaking contest. And then actually I got into the final, and like years later I did it again. in my 4th year of high school, and then I was actually awarded with 3rd place. So yes, but like that first speaking contest, I think that the one that I actually got into the final, because that was my goal at the time. I was like, I just wanted to get into the finals, and I did it. So yeah, I think I would just I think like even on days that when I have dementia, I would still remember like how I guess like how happy I was. Yeah.
Impressive. What is Inspirlang's mission?
So when I started Inspirlang, so I don't know if anyone noticed the name. So I actually made it, I kind of just put inspiring and language together. So when I started, actually I called it Inspirlang, but then over time, people started saying like Inspirlang, and this kind of make more sense. So I just followed with it and I just call it Inspirlang. So, and then when I first started, I never envisioned it to be only for learning Chinese, and until this day I don't think I would make it just learning Chinese, but that's what I'm capable of teaching and right now in training. So but hopefully in the future it'll work for many other non-mainstream dialects as well. So right now our purpose is just making language learning material accessible, and especially for those that don't have a lot of existing resources out there.
So is your hometown Taishan or Enping?
Oh, yeah, I don't know why people ask Enping, but they're also very close to each other, and they're kind of like in the same province and within like the same big region of like Seyap, but now which changed to Yap. And so I'm actually from Taishan, which locates inside Guangzhou province and along the coastal area. Yeah.
What career did you want when you were younger, or did you always want to teach Chinese?
I think when I was like a lot younger, I always wanted to be a teacher, and then when I got older, that kind of just got lost, and I eventually became a math teacher first, but when I was in school, at least, I was studying to become a statistician, and I was working on my track and it was going pretty well, but then eventually I think I didn't really like the idea of, I like doing statistics, but I also didn't like just behind a computer all day long. I kind of do stuff, administrative work behind a computer anyways now, but I like to have a little bit more of interactive and conversational aspects in my job. So that's why I chose teaching math when I finished school at a time. So yeah, no, I think when I was younger I wanted to be a teacher, but I always knew that I would come back to becoming a teacher eventually, so I didn't purposely work on that track, but I guess it just sticks with me now.
So what language do you use to journal?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. I use English to journal, and there are like 2 different reasons of why I did it. So the first reason was actually I wanted to improve on my English at the time when I first started. I started journaling when I was 16, I think, yeah. And then I've been journaling since then, and I journal every day, basically. So if you were to ask me any particular day what I did, I would be able to tell you. But actually the second reason was most important, because I started journaling in English because I wanted to write in something that no one else in the family could understand, and that meaning my parents. Like, I don't want anyone to be reading my journal. So at the time, that's why I decided to journal in English, because it's my little secret piece. But yeah, but anyone who has attempted to journal in a second language, you probably can vouch that it's actually really good on improving your writing skill in that language. And I think writing in English journaling in English helps me to improve so much of my writing skills over time.
Is there any online dictionary from English to Cantonese that you recommend?
Yes, we actually have quite a bit. So I think the first one, if you're working on your computer, most people don't know about this, but we have, well, not we have, but like, I guess we have a Bing translator from Microsoft that you can actually input English phrases, English words, and that would translate to Cantonese for you. And they can also read it out loud. And if you're on your phone, let's say most of the students would probably be familiar with Pleco dictionary. When you first install Pleco, you might only have English and Mandarin, but as long as you go into the settings and enable Cantonese, you'll be able to translate things from English to Cantonese or Cantonese to English.
Is Yale or Jyutping more standard to learn Cantonese?
I wouldn't call either one of them more standard. It's really a matter of time difference. I think Yale's was gained its popularity a lot earlier, and a lot of students would still argue now that it is it's more intuitive because of dialectical tones that it puts that it displays on each word. But a lot more of the newer material today use Yuping because frankly it's just a lot easier to type, and it would save a lot of time to just type those in your computer. And so that's part of the reason why it gained so much more popular. But I wouldn't call either one of them more standard. It's usually the preference of the teacher or whoever that develops the material. But I personally prefer Yuping a little more because it is more user-friendly for us teachers to input on the computer, and also for students to type as well.
Is there a big difference between Cantonese language from Guangzhou and from Hong Kong?
So for this question, since we have Angie on the line too, because Angie is a native speaker from Guangzhou, for me personally, I watch a lot of shows from both Guangzhou and Hong Kong, and that's why a lot of people sometimes would say that I use a mix of vocabulary from both. But I think in terms of idioms and pronunciations, at least, I would, I'm a little closer to Hong Kong, and also geographically they're very close. But yeah, Angie, what do you think of that since you're from Guangzhou?
I mean, I don't know about non-heritage speakers, but for us native speakers, we can tell just by listening to somebody talk. But it's very hard to actually describe what the difference is. For me, I would probably say it would be kind of like Hong Kong people use more N particles, and then for Guangzhou people, they don't use as much.
I actually wonder if because, Guangzhou has definitely more influence from mainland nowadays, right? And in Mandarin, there aren't as many final particles. So I wonder if that's the reason. Can you say something, I guess, in your version of Cantonese? What should I say?
Like what?
Like what? 你中唔中意喺 你中唔中意喺 Inspirlang 返工啊？ Put your answer. Say your answer.
我中意，可以話我老細好好人。
Alright, we can skip that. Okay, alright. But coming back to what other people were saying, that sometimes I've talked to someone who's from Hong Kong, and he would point out to me that in Hong Kong they would use lang hei instead of hong tiu, right? And then shu guai versus bing shang, the first one being more commonly used in Hong Kong, and the second one more commonly used in Guangzhou. And part of the reason is, like I said before, Guangzhou has more influence from the mainland, and there are a lot more Mandarin speaker in Guangzhou, so the vocabulary would also get shifted as well.
Yeah, but they are used interchangeably, and people will understand as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question. For the pronunciation of ngo, any tips? Because some people are having trouble with pronouncing it.
I have a couple tips for that. And first of all, it's NGO, spelled out as ngo, right? And I've almost preferred that my students say "o" just with the O instead of saying "no" with the N, because when you say it with just the O, it's just a "ngo" with a lazy sound. But if you say "no" with the N, that's actually incorrect. So that's what I would recommend my students to do. And the second tip is that try practicing the NG sound with anything as an ending, for example. Because in English, we also have NG, but usually plays in places like SING, sing, right? If you say singer, we usually carry over the NG over to the ER, right? So now, try it with the O, or try to carry anything after the NG that makes sense to you in English, and then transfer that into Cantonese. And I think that will make a lot more sense to English speakers.
So I like the next question because I am interested in this as well. Have you watched or considered watching Cantonese language TV dramas to improve your Cantonese? If so, what is your favorite TVB or Hong Kong drama?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Instead of saying watching Cantonese TV shows to improve my Cantonese, I would say that basically that's how I learned Cantonese. If anyone remembers, so I was from Taishan, right? And even though Taishan is inside of Guangzhou and has a lot of Cantonese influence, you don't guarantee that everyone can speak it fluently. And the reason I am is because I watched so many dramas and so many TV shows when I was younger, and that's how I picked up Cantonese and speak it right now. For all of you out there, you can also watch it to improve your Cantonese. But also don't stress on the fact that if you're like a beginner speaker and you can't understand the show, because that's just how it's gonna be, right? So maybe choose something that works for you to learn the language first, and then start watching shows when you can understand a little bit of Cantonese, because otherwise it can be a lot more frustrating.
So what is your favorite TVB?
Oh yes. I have this one called Chong Sai Gay, which is English name is At the Threshold of an Era. Yeah, it's a really old. It's like from the early 2000s. But I watched it when I was actually in New York and when I was in like high school. And there are 2 seasons, and when we finished the first season, it's a lot of business strategies and also like just dramas in the show. And when the first season's finished, right, the first 50 episodes, and my mom and I were desperately waiting for the second season to start immediately because the story continued immediately after. But TVB did not do that because we have the TVB dish at the time, and they did not air it right immediately after. Instead, they aired something else, and so I was so like mad. Not mad, but like I was like, why you do that, TVB? So actually, I, as a high school student, I like emailed TVB. I was like, this is not right, and like you guys should you should air the second season of At the Threshold of an Era, like right now, basically. I mean, at the time, I didn't think they would like really like look at my email or anything. I just meant to do it as like a rant for myself. But they got back to me and they like thanked me for my support and blah blah. And immediately after, they say, oh, we will start airing this show like starting next week. And so for the entire week after that, like TVB, I think like there used to be a TVB-E, I think. I forgot which channel. But TVB just like announced this commercial every 15 minutes and say, oh, like from this day, like from this Sunday, we will no longer play that old drama. We'll be airing At the Threshold of an Era from now. So for like the entire week, they like have that, announcement. So I think as a little high school student, I think you realize how much impact you have. So that just made me like that show even more. Yeah.
Continuing, do you have recommendations of TVB dramas? So like more.
Oh, like more shows. Oh, we actually have a blog about this on our website to recommend you guys, you know, the TV dramas that we know that you can find subtitles for. So that being said, you can find that they usually have like built-in subtitles, and you can use the tools that we teach you, which I'm gonna put it in this video, to translate those subtitles into English or into Spanish, whatever language that you are more familiar with.
So how is working with Xiaomanyc NYC?
Oh, that's a really funny question. Just like any other students, and obviously, Xiaoma is very talented in learning languages. But I'm a teacher, and he was my student for Taishanese, so you treat each other just like between teacher and student. But he's definitely a very great student, and he picks up the pronunciations very fast, and he was able to go out and have, after I think we have like a 3-week immersion classes that I just teach him how to say phrases, and he was able to go out to Chinatown and use the language to speak to other vendors in Chinatown. So yeah, for any of you that's out there, you can do the same thing too. So yeah.
Why did you stop making videos about Guangdonghua?
Oh, yeah, that's a very funny question because I never stopped. So I still make Guangdonghua Cantonese videos nowadays. Now it might be a little different from when I first started. I think when I first started, I had a lot of videos about just teaching Cantonese, like as if you're in a class. But I kind of stopped doing that, and instead I made more just tutorial videos of how you can use the resources out there to learn Cantonese, and also just making Cantonese vlogs so that you can watch them and kind of have fun and just through my daily lives and just learn Cantonese through that way. I don't really make instructional Cantonese videos as much nowadays. I still do, but not as much, because you can sign up for our classes at Inspirlang, and also every student sort of comes from a different level, and I don't get any real-time feedback from the audience or the students. So it's really hard for me to know what level you guys are at and where you're coming from, basically, where your language background is. So I think the best way to do it is, I can give you the resources. I tell you where and how you can use these resources to learn Cantonese. And if you guys do need, instructions and really to be in a classroom, you can join our classes at Inspirlang.
So what type of videos are we going to make more in the future?
I think I'm going to continue doing what we're doing right now, and just making more tutorial videos and making more vlogs. But I'm definitely interested in collaborating with other YouTubers or students or teachers more in the future, just so that you can see how you can use Cantonese to interact on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so the last question is it easy to lock your bike in or around Chinatown?
First of all, that's definitely a bonus question. So I would tell you, I still do. I live in New York, and I parked my bike in front of my neighborhood library, and I used kind of my $10 lock to lock it inside a library, and 2 hours later it was just gone and nowhere to be found, and you file a report for that, and obviously no one's going to help you to find it. So if you're carrying your bike with you and you're planning to come to Chinatown and just chill a little bit, have a little coffee or have a little charm fun, whatever you're thinking of, make sure you bring really good locks because there's just so many people, and you can't always assume people have the same intentions like you do.
The next day.
Locks to New York City, and I hope you guys will get to visit New York's Chinatown sometime soon. And that's all the questions for today. Thank you so much for watching this video and also for supporting Inspirlang in the different ways that you do. For example, subscribing to our channel and listening to our podcast, buying our books and getting our lessons. All these are really good ways, or just liking this video. All of these can be really good ways to tell us that you love our language and you care for the work that we do, and yeah, so that's really important for me. So I hope I will be able to tell you guys more stories next time. So I'll see you next time. 下次見啦. Bye bye. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you like my video. If you would like more Chinese learning contents from me, please visit inspirlang.com for more. I hope to see you again in my next video. Bye bye.